Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining me. It's Wednesday, so we are going over our wide receiver rankings. In this video, we are going over the top 1 all the way to 36, so you have your wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s, and some flex options. We'll also cover a couple notable omissions and the reasons why. If you guys have any start sit questions, drop them down below. I would love to be able to help you out. If you are new to the channel or haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate your support. It allows me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you guys the content that you love on my road to my first 100 subscribers. With that all out of the way, let's get into Week 10's wide receiver rankings. Starting off at number 1, it is Cooper Kupp on the road facing the Niners. Kupp was able to match a season high with 13 targets, and he set a new season high with 11 catches, finishing once again as a wide receiver 1. That now makes it 7 times that he has done that in 9 tries. Up next, it is Davante Adams at home against Seattle. This is a solid matchup for Adams, who will have a capable offense around him for the first time in 3 weeks. I think that Rodgers comes back with a huge statement, and Adams is riding shotgun. He goes over 100 yards, and he scores. Rounding out the top 3, it is Stefon Diggs on the road to face the Jets. Diggs was solid last week as he racked up 85 yards on 8 targets, but he still just has 3 touchdowns on the year in a single game going over 100 yards. While the Jets are allowing the 7th fewest points per game to the position, I feel like this is the get-right game for Diggs in a big way. We move on to Chris Godwin on the road against the Washington football team. He's in at 4. As long as Antonio Brown is hurt, Godwin is going to continue to ball out. He has 23 targets in his last 2, and in that time, he has racked up 251 yards and a pair of scores, finishing as wide receiver 6 and wide receiver 3. I'm sure that he loves his teammate, but he probably is okay with him resting 1 more week. His teammate, Mike Evans, finishes out our top 5. And after seeing just 4 targets in 2 of his last 3 games, I expect Brady is going to go to Evans early and often here. With no threat of an elite shadow cover this week, it is all systems go in a game where Tampa scores 30 plus. At 6, it's Michael Pittman at home against Jacksonville. And okay, my bad guys, a big swing and a miss on selling Pittman a couple of weeks ago. All he's done since then is finish as wide receiver 7, wide receiver 2, and 13 over his last 3, and he has taken a stranglehold on the wide receiver 1 duties in Indianapolis. The Jags are not about to slow him down. As we move on to number 8, it is Keenan Allen at home against the Vikings. Allen did as requested last week, keeping the momentum going in with a top 7 finish and a monster 12 catch on 13 target for a 104-yard stat line. All that was missing was the tutty. He will get that this week against a Vikings team that is still pretending like they're trying to win. Next up at 9, it is Terry McLaurin at home against the Bucks, and I just feel a boom game coming here for Scary Terry. He's fresh off a bye. He's got a great matchup with a Bucks team that's allowing over 37 points a game to pass catchers. Bombs away. Pray it's not a dud. Rounding out our top 10, it is Marquise Brown on the road against Miami. A current top 5 receiver, Brown has been outstanding all year, and I admit I haven't given him his due. After 4 finishes in the top 11 in his last 5 games, I cannot do that anymore. Miami allows more points per game to wideouts than all but 2 teams in the NFL. He is going to explode. A.J. Brown is next. He gets New Orleans at home, and he is our 11th ranked player. With a Marshawn Lattimore shadow certainly coming, just like last week when he was shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, we need to temper expectations here and hope that he can break free. The last wide receiver 1 we have for you guys is DK Metcalf on the road in Lambeau. No one is happier to see Russell Wilson back than Metcalf, but in reality, he didn't miss Russ all that much. He posted 3 wide receiver 1 finishes in his last 4 games while trying to single-handedly carry Seattle's offense. We move on to 13, and it is Justin Jefferson on the road to face the Chargers. Jet finally got to gritty after a 3-week absence, which was also the last time he was a wide receiver 1. In a tough matchup here, temper expectations and hope that his 9 targets in his last 2 games is a blip on the radar. It certainly should be. Deebo Samuel gets the Rams at home, and he is next up at 14. I certainly have some concern for Deebo's calf injury, and when we add on the fact that George Kittle just got back and is going to be sapping targets, as well as the coming out party for Brandon Ayuk that just occurred, there is some concern, and I am pumping the brakes a little bit on Deebo. At 15, it is Deontay Johnson at home against Detroit. I think that Big Ben continues to force feed this guy, and he is bound to produce with all of that talent. Even if it's 3, 4, or 5 yards downfield, he's gonna break one eventually, and the Lions are a great team to do that against. We move on to 16, and it is CeeDee Lamb at home against the Falcons. Lamb's inefficiency last week was glaring. He turned 9 targets into just 23 yards. Ouch. The production comes back this week in a statement game for the Cowboys, who will be out to prove that last week was a fluke and that they belong in the NFC's elite. Up next, at 17, it is Robert Woods on the road against the 49ers. Bobby Trees has seen increased targets in his last 3 games and is an excellent Robin to Cooper Kupp's Batman. He has a good shot at his 3rd consecutive top 15 finish, even in a tough matchup. At 18, it is Mike Williams at home against my Vikings. I, for one, am glad that there is at least some middle ground for Williams, who at least didn't completely kill owners with a pair of catches for 58 yards. I believe this week is the one where he shows his true wide receiver 1 potential that he's been hiding since all the way back in week 5. Amari Cooper gets Atlanta at home this week. He is our 19th ranked player. Absolutely nothing went right for Dallas last week, and Cooper was certainly included in that. He saw just 5 targets, his lowest since all the way back in week 4. I think Dak is going to get him more involved, and I expect a ton of points for the Cowboys here. Rounding out our top 20, DJ Moore travels to the desert to face the Cards. It has now been 5 weeks since we saw Moore finish as a wide receiver 2, and even the return of CMC couldn't save him last week. Carolina will have to throw often to keep up with Arizona, and I'm betting on the opportunities to translate this week as he gets back on track. At 21, it is Jalen Waddle at home against the Ravens. Waddle continues to be Tua's favorite target, and in his last 4 games, he has 42 targets, racking up 262 yards in that span. The Ravens rank 9th, allowing 33 points a game to wideouts, but I am buying the volume on Waddle. Falling all the way down to number 22 is DeAndre Hopkins at home against the Panthers. I'm going to continue to take a conservative approach on Nuke for now until we get some more news on what exactly is going on with his hamstring. He's really hard to bench if he does play. However, we need to temper expectations as that issue seems to be lingering. Up next, at 23, it is Adam Thielen on the road to face the Chargers. Thielen was able to save managers last week as he scored a touchdown on one of his 2 catches for a total of 6 yards. Now, unfortunately, that's not something that is completely out of the ordinary, and a bottom 2 matchup in this one lowers my confidence in him even more. The last wide receiver 2 that we have for you guys is Hunter Renfrow at home against Kansas City. He was able to find the end zone for the first time since week 4 against the Giants, and he's going to continue to be heavily utilized now that Henry Ruggs is gone. His floor was never in question, but now he's got a little bit of upside sprinkled in as well. Tyler Lockett faces the Pack in Lambeau, and he is our 25th ranked player. Perhaps Lockett deserves to be back in the wide receiver 2 conversation after a big wide receiver 7 finish last week, and the return of Russell Wilson. Or perhaps he finishes outside of the top 65 for the 5th time this season, and I would rather not gamble. As we move on at 26, it is Jerry Jeudy at home against the Eagles. Darius Slay may shadow him, so there is concern there, but Jeudy is looking like he's back to 100%, and he led the team with 8 targets last week. He has the ability to break 1 at any time. Up next, at 27, it is Chase Claypool. He gets Detroit at home. And I refuse to believe that this Steelers offense is so bad that they cannot make a playmaker like Claypool viable. But without a top 40 finish in 3 straight, that could change if he cannot produce against the Lions. Devonta Smith travels to Denver on the road, and he gets the 28th spot here. Smith reminded owners of all the talent that he possesses after a 7-week absence from Pater. He racked up 116 yards on 6 targets and nearly had 2 scores. He's got upside this week against Denver. Cole Beasley is 29th on the road against the Jets, and in his last 2 games, he's got 24 targets, so I buy that volume. While he wasn't able to turn it into much, the Jets present an excellent rebound opportunity. Jarvis Landry gets New England in Foxborough, and he rounds out the top 30. It is likely that Landry avoids J.C. Jackson in the slot, so he should see plenty of opportunities as a security blanket for Baker. Expect 8 targets or more here. Next up, it's Courtland Sutton at home against Philly. He is our 31st ranked player. Sutton's target share has plummeted since the return of Jerry Jeudy, seeing less balls in each of the last 3. That should change as the Eagles have been a force up front as of late. Next up, it is Brandon Ayuk. He's at home against the Rams, and he is our 32nd ranked player. Ayuk is starting to heat up, and he needs to be in the flex conversation moving forward. He could skyrocket depending on Deebo's health, and after a wide receiver 9 finish last week, I like him again against the Rams. Next up, at 33, it is Marvin Jones Jr. on the road against Indianapolis. It seems that no wideouts needed to catch balls last week for Trevor. However, that's going to change this week against a bottom 5 passing defense as the Colts allow over 41 points a game to the position. Emmanuel Sanders is next, and he gets the Jets on the road. He was able to rebound from an absolute egg with a solid top 30 performance last week, and he has seen 8 targets in 2 out of his last 3. Next up, it is Julio Jones. He's our 35th ranked player against New Orleans at home. Julio has not finished within the top 45 since week 2, so maybe it's time to start reevaluating. But after Atlanta lit up New Orleans last week, I like his chances here. The final player in at 36 for us is Rashad Bateman, traveling to Miami. Bateman has back-to-back wide receiver 3 finishes, and he saw 8 targets against the Vikings. He seems to be becoming a bigger part of this offense, and I absolutely love his floor. As we move to our notable omissions, I have a couple, and it starts with Antonio Brown against the Washington football team. As of now, it is unclear if he plays, so check my Friday start-sit video for an update when we know more. Finally, it's Elijah Moore versus Buffalo. The tough matchup combined with Corey Davis's likely return make it difficult to trust any Jets wideouts. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, drop any questions down below. I would love to be able to answer them for you. If you're new or haven't got to it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate the support on my road to my first 100 subscribers. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abraham O'Pass, and we'll see you next time.